Ask another question and I'll try and fix it. Yes.
Hang on, wait for it. You keep pointing at them and saying yes, and they just go, yes.
I suppose there's a lot of different levels of players in this room watching you today, and things we find as challenging for ourselves to play at whatever level we are. What are still challenges for you in terms of playing the bass? What things are challenging for you?
Getting out of bed, catching planes at 5:30 in the morning. Like maintenance is a thing. Like this time coming here to London to do this show, I forced myself. Like I said to myself, Janek, you were going to practice. I don't care if it's only 15 minutes every day. You're going to practice. I don't care what's going on. The dog is fucking screaming. You know, blah, the house is falling apart. There's an earthquake. I've really tried to make a conscious effort to keep my chops in shape to come and do something like this. Because I know I'm going to be sitting in front of a room full of bass players and certain things are going to be asked and expected or whatever. So that maintenance thing, like switching between gigs, you know, like I did something I've never done and will never do again. Now that I know that, last year I did 10.5 months on the road playing 10.5 months, you know. And you're sitting there on a tour bus twiddling my thumbs for the other 23.5 hours a day that we didn't make music. And then I came home, and then I took a holiday for 3 weeks, and I didn't play the bass. And then it was January, and it was like I had to go in the studio and produce and play on a record, and I had to go to NAMM and play, and I had to do a gig with my own band. I had to do all this stuff, having not played any of my own music for over a year, and not played the bass for 3 weeks. That was a challenge. I found that very challenging. It was horrible. It really felt bad. I did not feel comfortable. Some people are not like that, you know. It depends on the music you play as well. I wouldn't feel bad picking up a P bass and going to a country session. You know, my sound was still there, like my sound and my time and my musical sensibilities. It was just there were some technical requirements of some of these gigs that I was not, you know, good at faking it when I need to, you know. But yeah, I guess those are difficulties. And Hiram Bullock always used to say in clinics, someone would ask him, hey, Hiram, man, why did you get into guitar? And the first thing he would say was, girls. And the second thing, when they were like, oh, ha, 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 he would say, because it's the most easiest, jivest bullshit instrument there is. And, you know, if you don't know the song, just lay out and it all keeps on going. You know what I mean? The bass can be like that to a certain extent, just because it's a fretted, stringed instrument and you can move things around and know everything in all keys and all that kind of stuff. But there are a few things, you know, string crossing. String crossing and left-hand dexterity between 1, 2, 2, 3, and 3, 4. That's something I still work on a lot. So 3 and 4 sounds no different from and 2, 3. It's not very musical, but it's definitely an aspect of technique. And when I talk about technique and people say, what is technique? And what, like you said, what do you find difficult? I always say that technique is not being able to play fast or do what I did. Technique is being able to be musical and seamlessly connect your ideas, whether they be completely abstract and, you know, spacey, or whether they be like a machine gun, you know, whatever your style of playing is, it's about, and it's not connecting each idea to each other in a physical sense, it's a mental thing, seamlessly from the brain to the instrument to the audience. So yeah, I have great chops, man. I've worked on them for 15 years and every day, and I can, you know, do a lot of crap on the instrument, but I just choose not to most of the time. And when there is that moment, you know, when the idea is honestly, you know, it's honesty as well. When the idea is honestly, out it comes, you know, hopefully, if you did your homework, you know, and all those kind of things are for that. They're not to go and sit on a booth and go all day long, you know what I mean? You know who you are. Seriously, you know what I mean? You know, Jojo Mayer, my drummer, he has this technique he has, I don't even know where to start, it's insane. But he can play, you know, like 8,000 notes in the space of 5 seconds with one hand on a ride cymbal, and he's like, yeah, well, you know, I only use that to get attention in the drum store. So that's it, you know, like, hey, I'm over here, bitches, you know, like, come and serve me. That's it, you know, it's not it's not a particularly musical statement to do that over and over. And there are a lot of people out there who do, and are very successful doing so as well. You know, I don't quite understand that. But it's also a thing of awe as well, because I've been studying music from the audience perspective and what the reaction is to certain things, and I think if you have the melodic and expressive or storytelling ability to tell your story, you can have all of those things. You don't have to rely on a bag of tricks to get people along with you, and you can get them to understand things that they might not have done an hour before the gig. You know, and that's my challenge. You know, that's where I have fun. Because I like to play some of that fast crap, you know? It is definitely a part of my playing, and it's a natural extension of my vocabulary as a musician. So, yeah, wow, another long answer.
Okay, we got just under 10 minutes to go, and I always say this. People dry up with questions and then harass the clinician afterwards, so...
Well, here's the thing. Afterwards, we stop clinic mode and we go into sales mode, and I do have the copy of the album that Steve's talking about for sale. I'll be over at the TC booth signing some autographs and talking about the amps and selling some CDs. If anyone's interested, I just started teaching online, doing video lessons, and I'm compiling a quite enormous library of talking about all the kind of stuff I'm talking about today and more. The industry, we didn't even talk about the industry and about what it is to be any kind of musician, to be a bass player, or just to work in this industry and be successful and promote yourself and use all the tools that are out there right now. This is the most exciting and interesting and fun time as an independent musician, to not have to worry about a booking agent and a manager and a record label taking 80% of your profits. That's something else we could talk about for 10 minutes if somebody's got a question specifically to it, but that's definitely something I work on the lesson side. So if anyone's interested in that side of things, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that as well. But more questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, tell me.
It's specifically about that.
Okay.
And it's about balancing out, I suppose the problem that exists when we have to self-promote now is that as musicians, we're not naturally promoters. We're a musician.
Musicians are the worst marketers and the worst at telling their own story.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you find that you struggle with maintaining that sense of, I'm a musician, this is my job, this is what I should be doing, when it seems that so much of our time seems to be spent tweeting on Facebook, doing all this other kind of stuff?
It's been a tough balance since that transition has taken place. I started at the very, very end of record labels having a budget. I started at the end of stretch limos, like it was dying. Limos were just driving into the river. But I was a part of that for a very short period of time in a commercial pop sense as a touring sideman, living in New York and touring with pop artists. And I was a part of that. And there was a huge transition when MySpace came out, and now it's moved into Facebook and Twitter and all these other things, Reverb Nation. There's just so many I can't even list right now. So yeah, that's just been as part of it, you know. I'm not sitting around, you know, saying, like, why doesn't that gig exist anymore? You know, I wanted to play with the Jackson 5. Everyone wanted to play with the frickin' Jackson 5, you know what I mean? But it's not the 70s, and there's so many things about the 70s and about the 80s and about the 90s and about 10 years ago even that don't exist anymore. And I hear a lot of, oh man, music industry, man, it's tough. Bullshit. Music industry is exciting, and it is the most fun I've ever had. I mean, to be honest, I haven't known much else, but I'm the kind of person that as soon as it's not fun and exciting, I'll go and become a plumber or something that I find more interesting. That's my outlook on it. So it's kept my attention, which is a hard thing to do, because that's just my personality. And I think it's great, it's exciting, and anyone's like, oh, record industry is dead. You want to see my download sales sheet for last month? I don't think so. You know, it's great, you know? Like, there's a lot of great music out there, and I think actually there's more great music being heard as a result of it. Bands are coming back, you know what I mean? I hear, especially in the States. I mean, I live in between Los Angeles and New York. Somebody said, oh, you live in Kansas earlier, and I was like, no, I live in... It was good. I laughed at the time. It was a great joke. I'd never heard that one, but... It's great, you know. I think it's fantastic. It's hard, man, but you know, I have the BlackBerry with Twitter in it and Facebook, and it takes 30 seconds to talk to your fans, to talk to your audience. People want to hear, and if they don't want to hear, they'll unsubscribe to your list and they'll go away and find something they do. But you will take with you a very set of loyal fans and friends and followers and people who are into your music if you talk to them. It's all about being communicative, you know what I mean? You gotta communicate. That's what we do as musicians, and musicians can be, could be, I hope will be a lot better at that side of things. Yes. Go ahead. Let's do
Final question
one
of
quick
the
one, and then I'll
day.
play a tiny bit and we'll go.
Well,
How's it?
probably most of us here are bass players, and we all aspire to become successful as as you are. But how much of that requires us being more than just bass players today in the industry? I mean, do we have to learn how to play other instruments and become MDs and do that type of thing?
You know, I do all of those things. I wouldn't say it's essential. I think the most essential thing to be this day is yourself and be unique and have something original to say. I could come up here and play like Dave Marks or Steve Lawson or Gary Willis or Mark King. I could come up here and do all of those things, but I don't. I come up here and be myself. And that's what I hope, that's my mission, is that people go away remembering that, to be honest, to be yourself, and to have something unique to say. There's a reason I get called for a pop gig. It's exactly what Dave was saying. I'm not the guy who's like 1 minute and then that's not me. I don't do that. I do what I do very specifically, and people call me for that. Of course, I play stylistically appropriately for the music I'm playing, but people call me because of who I am and what I bring to the table. So yes, in a sense, I would highly recommend having those other things under your belt. They don't hurt, more arrows in the thing in the strings or whatever. I don't know the analogy, but the more things you can do, sure, the better, I am a musical director, and that doubles my check when I go on the road. It's a lot more work, but I get to arrange, and I get to have input, and I get to work directly with the artist and, program and do all kinds of other things beside the bass, which I really love. I don't do it because I want that extra money. The extra money is a bonus. I really love arranging strings, putting a horn section together, or whatever it is. I really like those things. So those are the reasons I do it. And yes, I would say it's an advantage, not necessary, but an advantage. And I would really focus on doing something unique. There's a reason people call Pino Palladino, because nobody else sounds like him. Plenty of people try. There's a reason why people call Marcus Miller. 1 million people sound like him. But it's much better to have the original guy, you know what I mean? Branford Marsalis, quick anecdote, Branford Marsalis, the saxophone player, was in a recording session, and the producer came in and said, yeah, so can you do that like kind of more Dave Sanborn thing? So Branford packed up his horn, and he took Dave Sanborn's card out of his wallet, he gave it to the producer and left the session, and that just kind of, exemplifies how Branford feels about playing like himself. And he was right, and that's exactly what I'm saying. You want Dave Sanborn? Call Dave. I'm sure he could use the gig. I'm sure. And that's the other thing, man. Don't be afraid to call people. Everyone says, oh my God, Dave Sanborn. Oh, legend. He has days off. He has times where he'd like to go out and play. You know what I mean? That's a whole different subject. I'm going to play for like 2 minutes. Is that cool to close out? And thank you. I'll be over at the TC booth, which is right over here, doing some signings and selling some CDs and talking a little more. Okay, thank you so much.